All right, and welcome back to Logan Cinematography. Great to have you here, and today I want to talk about a collection of software that's been around a long time called the Nik collection. Now, just FYI, this program was created a number of years ago by the Nik company. It was then sold to Google, who actually made it free, and then it was purchased by DxO Labs a few years back. So it's no longer free. Basically, it's a bunch of plugins for Photoshop, and basically it's ways you can enhance your images. So that's what we're going to take a look at today. It hasn't changed much over the years, so we're going to try and see, is this still relevant in 2020? But before we do that, make sure you're subscribed to the channel there. Helps us out a lot, allows you to see these videos right when they come out, you're notified. And also hit that like button if you do like what you see. Appreciate that a lot. But I'm going to go ahead and start in Adobe Photoshop here. I've got an image I actually took on the new iPhone SE, which in fact, if you haven't seen my review of that camera, you can click up on the card up there on the top on YouTube and you can see that review there. But this is actually was a panorama shot I did there. So we're going to go ahead and go on a few filters through it and see if this is worth it. So basically, once you install it, the Nik collection is accessible in the Adobe Photoshop filter there. And I'm going to start with Analog Effects Pro. This basically simulates some films, kind of old camera looks. So I'm going to go ahead and start there. I'm running a trial version, so it's probably going to go ahead and indicate, yeah, I can need a serial number or try. There's a couple different versions of the program. One costs more than the other. I think the more expensive one has more features, so you've got to compare there and see. But basically, like a lot of these DxO products, it starts out the number of presets here on the left, and then you do have your basic adjustments here on the right to tweak it, or you can even add your own little effects from there. But I'm going to start with the presets because I found the presets are kind of the most exciting parts of the program. It really gives you those great ideas to start with. So actually, I'm going to go down to Classic Camera 3 right here. And it's kind of like an old film look there. It's definitely a little bit faded, and you can kind of come in here and they have different kinds of emulsions you might want to try. I'm going to go ahead and stick with the default there. And then what we can do here is, there's a slider, neutral or fade. It's definitely a faded look, and that's probably a little bit too much for me. So I think I'm going to go ahead and we're going to bring it down there just a little bit because I think that's going to be a bit too much. And I did add some grain here, if you notice. In fact, let's go ahead and use our navigator up there top, just to actually kind of add sharpness. It's very subtle, but I could definitely increase the grain down there if I wanted to do that. Go ahead and zoom back out. And I think I'm going to look at basic adjustments, and I think I'm going to go ahead. This is honestly too contrasty for me. I think I'm going to do that and maybe decrease the brightness a little bit because it's really a pretty bright day. I'm just taking a look at my histogram there. We still do have some highlights there, which are over there. A lot of the image is being pushed down towards the blacks there, but I still think that's a good image right there. Let's see. Yes, I'm going to say it's still too contrasty for me. And then you can see here they've added like some dirt and scratches options. This again makes it feel like a film simulation. Let's go ahead and zoom into 100% there, and you can see if I were to do something really drastic, you can probably see a couple of artifacts that popped up, but nothing too bad. I think I'm going to go ahead and stick with the default that it gave us. And, very simple little plugin right there, but definitely has a lot of power. In fact, I actually outputted an image similar to this and actually put it on Facebook, Instagram, my website. So I was kind of pleased with it. A lot of fun there. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of that. Oh, I should mention, this may be cut out on your screen. There is a brush option down here. We can apply this effect locally if we prefer, as opposed to the entire image. But I'm not going to worry about that in this case. I'm going to go ahead and hit cancel. Now let's go ahead and grab another image here. Go ahead and don't save that. Let's go down to here, and we're going to go ahead and open up this shot. We're going to try another plugin. There's a number of plugins here that DxO Nik collection offers. Going back into filter, let's go to the next one here, which is the Color Effects Pro software. It almost feels like the previous plugin, but it is not necessarily trying to make the image look old. Although I think I might try and do it right here. So let's see what's been added. You can see on the left here, there's a bunch of different filters. I've got all selected. Film effects, contrast, it goes basically from basic adjustments all the way to these kind of special presets that they've generated here. So I think actually I'm going to start with this. I think this is kind of what I was doing last time, if I recall correctly. And it's doing this effects faded, so it's kind of like an old camera, so it's, you know, an old print, I should say, so it's a little bit faded there on the edge, but I think it's kind of a cool look. Let's go ahead and maybe bring brightness down just a little bit. One thing I notice is I'm dragging the slider. This is an older program. It doesn't update the effect until I let my mouse off the slider, so that's a little bit annoying, but not the end of the world there. So go ahead and start sliding that. And trying to think if I like that vignette or not. I think I might increase it just a little bit here. Okay, so basically that's the effects faded plugin there, or preset, their filter they've added. So we can go ahead, let's go ahead and add a filter. And I'm just trying to think what else I could do. Let's try and make this kind of a little bit more, even more old-fashioned. And I think if I go down here, there should be a border option, if I am not mistaken. Let's see if I can find it here. There we go, image borders. And I have some different options here. So you can see type 1, type 2, type 3. Maybe something like that would be nice. And I'm trying to think size. Let's try and, I don't want, of course, now it's cutting off, but, you know, maybe something like that. Go ahead and do that. Very simple there. Of course, I can increase the spread there of that particular black border. Maybe about right there sounds pretty good to me. Let's go ahead and add one more filter. And I think let's try and make this black and white. You just basically, you can stack these filters up, move them around. Makes it pretty easy. So go to black and white conversion. And let's see, and basically you see filter color right here. That's if I were shooting with like a red filter, a green filter, yellow filter. Basically that would only allow that certain amount of light through the camera, which would then affect the gray tones of the image. So, you know, I can go ahead in there and, you know, maybe play around with it here. Just trying to think. Actually, this is updating in live in this case. Maybe about right there or so. And I think, you know, let's go ahead and bring brightness back up. I know I edited it previously. Maybe let's go ahead and add a little bit more contrast in there to kind of make that pop. And then I'm thinking, shadows, maybe we can bring those down just a little bit there. I guess I'm taking some of the old-fashioned look out of it, but I like what I see there. So again, there you go. There's the Color Effects Pro 4. Lots of fun can be had in there. I will mention as well, you can add something called control points here. And basically, and we'll look at this more in some other plugins they've got. So I can select a certain tonal range, maybe like back here. And then I can go ahead and actually add a specific, you know, filter to it right there or something like that. In fact, let's see, opacity. Yeah, I have to fool around with it later, but that is an option if you can figure it out. I'm going to go ahead and delete that for now. And let's see if we can, I don't know, I guess we lost our black and white conversion. Anyway, little thing there to fill around with when you get to that. So I'll go ahead and cancel that out there. And let's actually go ahead and take a look at, oh, and this is one thing I have noticed with the program. It is kind of old-fashioned. I have had issues where it's crashed Photoshop or crashed the program. So if you see that there, it looks like it messed up again. So I'm going to go ahead and ignore that. But it's good you saw that, because occasionally that is an issue with these because they are older programs. Let's go ahead and open this back up. It's going to have to relaunch Photoshop again, unfortunately, and I was editing this in Camera Raw, so it's automatically pulling that up. Let's go ahead and continue on here and see what else I've got here for us. Define 2, this is actually their noise reduction program. Not a super big fan of this. I find that it primarily just makes the image very, very soft. In fact, let's go ahead and let it do its thing. You can see it's analyzing right here. Just takes a second. This is a 12 megapixel iPhone image we've got here. Automatic profile applied, and we can go in here and actually say, you know, let's reduce, oh, I don't know, contrast noise, and it really does just start to soften it up. So I'm not a big fan of that. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And one nice thing about Nik, I will say, is that it creates whatever effects you're doing. When it brings it back into Photoshop, it actually makes it a layer, so you can turn it on and off or paint through it or what have you. So, you know, in this case, didn't do a whole lot. I'm not a big fan of it. You can fool around with it, but that's kind of how that works. Let's go ahead and get out of this. I think I'm going to keep working with this same image. I'm just going to go ahead and hit delete layer there and get rid of that particular look right there. Let's go back into filter. And let's take a look at sharpening here. So you see a couple options. They have a raw pre-sharpener if you're already, you know, you're just starting to edit and you want to sharpen it up, or output. Like for example, let's say we wanted to print this image. Let's go ahead and click on that. This would be the plugin that we would want to use in this particular case. So I'll go ahead and hit try. And it should tell us here, output sharpening, what we want to do. I think I'm going to go ahead and say, if I were to print it on an inkjet printer, for instance, and it's going to say, let's say I'm printing it on a glossy paper, and it's asking me what the resolution of the printer is. I'll leave that there for now. Let's go ahead and zoom in if we can here, and I guess, let's see. Yeah, I guess it doesn't allow us to do that in this case for some weird reason. So we'll go ahead and stick here with that. But you do see that preview down there at the bottom, which is nice to have. I was trying to think what else we could do. I might increase the strength just a little bit because we definitely want it to be sharp. And you can, of course, you can adjust contrast and all that stuff. So the structure, I think we probably are doing too much. I might back off a little bit on that. There we go, get out of that. So I'll go ahead and hit OK, and we can kind of bounce back and forth between where we were there. And let's give it a second. It's going to do that. Let's go ahead and zoom into 100% here. And you can see if I were to print this would be a very sharp image, and I think it would be quite effective. So let's go ahead and just turn it on and off. There's where we started. That may be doing it too much, but you definitely see it is quite effective if you play around with it. So that's kind of a cool little feature there. But I can go ahead and delete that again, and we're going to take a look at just the last plugins here so you can get your idea of the Nik collection. So I'm going to go with Silver Effects Pro, and Silver Effects referring to the silver highlight particles in film. This is actually a black and white primarily film simulator. So let's go ahead and take a look at that, blow that up. And you got all sorts of fun options here. So it's all black and white. Basically here. So, here's one that's kind of cool. Cool tones right there, and it's a preset again, but of course we can add our own filters and whatnot if we wanted to over here. So for example, let's see, finishing adjustments, so we could do image borders. We could actually just turn this completely off if we wanted to. Let's say we don't want the image border, we can get rid of that. Toning, and this is obviously that, that's how we got the blue tint there and everything. So I might just leave that alone. Let's see where we were, probably about 8 or so. There we go. And we could do a vignette, for instance. Let's say a very subtle white frame there, and of course we can adjust that. Let's see, maybe we can make it a little bit less. Hold on, maybe even a little bit more. How about something like that? That would be pretty cool. And then let's see, brightness and contrast. Maybe that's a bit too bright. And maybe contrast is a bit too much. Let's make it a little bit more faded. So again, this is great if you like working with presets, if you're not quite sure where you want to start and want some ideas. That's where these Nik programs really do come into their element here, I do think. So yeah, that's pretty good. Let's go ahead and hit OK. And we can kind of compare where we started. Again, we're applying that layer. Some adjustments take a little bit longer than others depending on the complexity. There's a progress bar down here which you might not see because you're cropped out on your screen, but let's go ahead and see here. So I can turn the layer off, turn it back on. Hey, something pretty cool. I like it quite a lot. So, that might be something fun that you could work with there. So, but let's go ahead and there's one more thing I do want to show you that I can kind of sum up the Nik collection here. Let's go back into Filter, Nik collection, and Viveza. This is one I'm still trying to learn. If you noticed, I had a little trouble with that local adjustment last time. Let's see if I can figure it out this time here for you to give you some idea. Because this is basically how this works. So the way it works is you select individual points on the image and it detects what tone that point is, whether that's brightness, contrast, color, and then it will allow you to make adjustments over that particular tone over the entire image. That's basically how it works there. So let's go ahead and add a control point. Let's say, I want to try and edit this particular color right here. And let's see here, I can do brightness and contrast, and I guess it's just detecting that particular tone in that particular area, so I can go ahead and, let's say, bring that down, or maybe we want to saturate it a little bit more or something like that. Maybe a little more contrast. Of course, that's really going to make it stick out there. And then I can go ahead and add another one, for instance. Let's say I want to add this particular tone right here, and it does give you a very close-up right there, and I want to say, let's go ahead and brighten this up. Make that a little bit brighter there, maybe add a little bit of light or something like that there in the image, and then say, let's go ahead and do the same thing up here, get some brightness going. It's kind of a weird way to edit, but as you fool around with it, it can get interesting. And then let's see all these control points, 1, 2, and 3. What I can do is select all these, and then you'll see it right there, what it's actually selected with a mask. And I can go ahead and hit Group. or I should be able to. Here, let's see. Let's go ahead and do 1, 2, 3. There we go. Make group. I guess I had to select it like that. And now, once I've done that, I can individually go in here. Well, not individually, but now I can do everything globally. And I guess it's got us in that kind of weird mask. We can try and get out of it, but that's kind of how it would work there. In fact, let's go ahead and hit OK and take a look. Give it a second, and you can see there, we started editing there in this particular areas. I'm not particularly a big fan of it there, but, it could be kind of interesting if you're wanting a different way to do local adjustments there, because it does select individual tones, but I have not quite figured out yet. It seems it's either very basic or I'm not getting it, because it doesn't offer quite enough adjustment in the amount of tones it selects, for my particular taste there. So that's the Veza plugin there for Nik. So what's my verdict there in the Nik collection? Like I said, it's been around a long time. It can be a little bit clunky, the interface, a little bit slow, but it can generate some unique results. So I would say if you have trouble coming up with, how you want this image to look, or you want to do something really wild but you're not sure how to do it, the Nik collection there is a great place to start, give you some ideas. And as I said, I actually ended up using one, so even if you're more advanced as well, that's perfectly fine. I think you can see some things here. So I would definitely try it out. There's a link down below for the program. There's a 30-day free trial, which I'm running. Then you can decide whether or not you want to purchase it there. So hopefully this was interesting. Let me know your opinions there on the Nik collection. If there's anything else you wanted to see, give me a tip or criticism, whatever it may be, put it down there for me. And again, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and please like this video. Helps us out a lot, especially with that YouTube algorithm there. So definitely appreciate you. And you have a good one. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.